All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a scenario that's, well, a little unsettling, to say the least.
Oh.
A world where the U.S. might not be calling the shots in AI, especially when it comes to national security.
That got my attention.
And that's exactly the scenario that this White House memo is trying to tackle head on.
Yeah.
It's a pretty hefty presidential memorandum, fresh from October 24th, 2024.
Oh?
And it basically lays out this whole plan to safeguard the U.S.'s leading role in the AI game, so to speak.
A roadmap for the future, huh?
Exactly, a roadmap.
Interesting.
Now, you might be thinking, all right, this all sounds very high level, but how does this impact me?
Right.
Well, whether you're a tech enthusiast or a geopolitical junkie or maybe just someone who's trying to figure out what this AI revolution means for their everyday life.
Yeah.
This deep dive is packed with insights you won't want to miss.
I can already tell this is going to be a good one.
Oh, it's going to be juicy, trust me.
All right, so lay it on me. What's so groundbreaking about this memo?
Well, what struck me right off the bat is that it doesn't just treat AI as the next software update.
Right.
It frames it as this potential turning point in history,
Mm-hmm.
on par with the invention of submarines or even nuclear propulsion.
Wow, they're really putting it in that historical context.
They are. It's not just another tech gadget.
Makes you realize the scale of what we're dealing with here.
Exactly. The scale is massive.
So they're not downplaying the significance of AI at all.
No, not at all. And they're definitely not mincing words about, the need to act quickly and strategically.
Right.
Especially with all the AI development happening in the private sector these days.
Yeah, that adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it?
It totally does. It's like this whole other playing field that the government has to navigate now.
It's not just about developing AI in a vacuum anymore.
Exactly. It's about figuring out how to harness it effectively and, more importantly, responsibly.
Responsibly, yeah. That's the key word there.
In a landscape that's constantly changing at warp speed.
It's like trying to hit a moving target.
Exactly. A very, very fast-moving target.
So how are they approaching this? How do they plan to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, they've laid out 3 core objectives
Okay.
to guide the U.S. government's approach to all things AI.
All right, let's break those down, starting with objective number 1.
Objective number 1, and this is a big one, is to lead the world in safe, secure, and trustworthy AI.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It's ambitious, right?
It is. They're aiming high.
Aiming high. And to make it happen, they're looking at some pretty concrete steps.
Okay, like what?
Strengthening the U.S. AI ecosystem is a major focus.
Right, making sure they have the foundation to support all of this.
Exactly. And that means attracting the best minds in the field, boosting computational power,
Infrastructure.
and even looking at immigration policies to see how they can be more AI friendly. Because right now, there are a lot of barriers for AI experts who want to come to the U.S., especially those working on really cutting-edge technology.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem.
And the memo specifically mentions streamlining visa processes to make it easier for these experts to come and work here.
So they're trying to make the U.S. a magnet for AI talent.
Exactly. They're flipping the script on that whole brain drain thing.
Turning it into a brain gain.
A brain gain, exactly.
Oh, that makes sense.
But it's not just about attracting people, right?
Oh, of course not.
It's about having the infrastructure to support cutting-edge AI development.
Right. The resources, the funding, the collaborative environment.
Massive computational power, research funding, and fostering collaboration between, the government, industry, and universities.
It's about building an ecosystem where innovation can thrive.
Exactly. Building that ecosystem right here in the U.S.
Okay, that's objective number 1.
Okay, objective number 2, and this is where it gets really interesting, is all about, putting AI to work for national security.
Mm-hmm.
But doing it responsibly.
Responsibly, that's a crucial distinction.
Yeah, responsible AI deployment. That's the key phrase here.
What does that actually look like, though, in the context of national security?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And the memo actually dives into some pretty specific recommendations.
Okay, give me the highlights.
Well, for starters, they're calling for updates to everything from hiring and training to acquisition processes.
Modernizing the systems, bringing them into the AI age.
And get this, they're even suggesting collaborating with international allies on AI development.
International allies, that's interesting.
Imagine, joint AI task forces tackling global threats.
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it kind of makes sense.
It does, right? Because Global threats often require global solutions.
And it leverages the strengths of different countries.
Exactly, strength in numbers.
Okay, so that's objective 2.
And that brings us to objective number 3, which is all about shaping global AI governance.
So it's not just about playing by the rules, it's about helping to write them.
Exactly. The U.S. wants to be a leading voice in setting the global standard for responsible AI use.
Promoting democratic values, protecting human rights.
And working to prevent the misuse of AI, which, let's be honest, is a very real concern.
It is. The potential for misuse is huge.
Think of it like establishing an international rulebook for AI.
An AI code of conduct for the whole world.
And the U.S. wants to be, the one holding the pen.
Leading the charge, setting the tone.
Exactly. Setting the tone for how AI is developed and used on a global scale.
So they have a vision, they have objectives.
They do. They have a plan.
But the question is, can they actually pull it off?
That's the big question, isn't it? And that's what we're going to be exploring in this deep dive.
I'm ready to dig deeper.
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about safety and security then, because that's got to be a top priority.
Absolutely. Safety and security are paramount.
Especially when you're dealing with something as powerful as AI.
You got it. And this is where the memo gets really, really granular.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So, get this. They're assigning very specific roles to different agencies to, assess and mitigate AI risks.
Division of labor makes sense?
For instance, the Department of Commerce. They're going to be working closely with the private sector to test AI models before they're, released out into the wild.
So kind of like a quality control check before these models go public?
Exactly, making sure they meet certain safety standards.
And who else is involved in this testing process?
Oh, we've got a whole lineup of heavy hitters.
Okay, lay it on me.
NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
They're the gold standard when it comes to, well, standard.
Right. They're like the gatekeepers for AI, making sure these new models are safe before they're, unleashed upon the world.
Makes sense. You don't want to just let anything loose without making sure it's safe.
Exactly. And it's not just hypothetical risks they're worried about. They're specifically looking at AI's potential for use in, cyber attacks, biological weapons development, even nuclear threats.
Whoa, that escalated quickly.
I know, right? It's serious stuff.
They're not messing around?
No, they're not messing around. They're taking this very, very seriously.
So what are they doing to make sure these risks are mitigated?
Well, one of the things they're doing is mandating testing of at least 2 frontier AI models before they're released to the public.
2, at least 2.
At least 2. And they're checking for a whole bunch of things like offensive cyber capabilities, potential misuse in developing dangerous weapons,
Right.
and any other risks that are flagged by the AI Safety Institute.
Wait, the AI Safety Institute, what's that?
That's what I thought. It sounds pretty intense, right?
It does.
So they're creating this whole new institute within NIST.
Dedicated specifically to AI safety.
Dedicated specifically to AI safety. They're calling it AISI, the AI Safety Institute.
So they're really putting their money where their mouth is.
They're investing resources and manpower into this.
Okay, what exactly will AISI be doing?
Well, think of them as the AI watchdogs.
I like it, AI watchdogs.
They're going to be running simulations, testing different scenarios.
Trying to anticipate potential problems.
Basically trying to figure out all the ways that AI could be used for harm, either intentionally or accidentally.
And then, hopefully, developing safeguards against those threats.
Exactly. It's a proactive approach, rather than just waiting for something to go wrong and then trying to react.
Anticipate and mitigate. That's the strategy.
That's the strategy, and it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're dealing with something as powerful and as unpredictable as AI.
It's a whole new way of thinking about security.
It is. It's a paradigm shift.
And it's not just about the technical aspects of AI, is it?
No, it's about the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. I like that.
The memo also emphasizes the need for robust governance and risk management frameworks.
Right, because technology is only part of the equation.
Exactly. You need the rules, the guidelines, the oversight
Right.
to ensure that AI is used ethically and legally.
Checks and balances, accountability, transparency.
All those good things. Think clear guidelines, oversight boards, mechanisms for flagging potential issues.
So they're building in those safeguards right from the start.
They are. They're trying to get ahead of the game, and they're putting a lot of emphasis on this framework.
What framework is that?
They're calling it the Framework to Advance AI Governance and Risk Management in National Security.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but it's a pretty important document. It's basically going to be the AI rule book for the U.S. government.
So it's not just empty words. They're actually putting something concrete in place.
Exactly. It's about putting those principles into practice.
Actions speak louder than words, right?
Absolutely. And this framework is a clear sign that they're taking the ethical and legal implications of AI very, very seriously.
Which is reassuring, to say the least.
It is. It shows that they're not just blindly charging ahead with this technology without considering the potential consequences.
That would be a recipe for disaster.
It would be a recipe for a disaster, and they seem to be aware of that.
Okay, so we've talked about the domestic side of things. What about the international landscape?
Right. Because AI doesn't respect borders.
It doesn't.
And that's where the memo's emphasis on international collaboration comes in.
Collaboration, that's a key word these days.
It is, especially when it comes to something as complex and as potentially disruptive as AI.
So what kind of collaboration are we talking about?
Well, the memo specifically mentions working closely with allies on AI development,
Okay.
sharing resources, maybe even co-deploying AI systems.
Co-deploying. Wow, that's a big step.
It is. It shows a high level of trust and cooperation.
And it makes sense because some of these challenges are too big for any one country to tackle alone.
Exactly. Strength in numbers.
Strength in numbers and also shared knowledge, shared expertise.
It's about pooling resources and working together to find solutions.
So it's not just about collaboration on the technical side, it's also about establishing those international norms and standards we talked about.
Right, because you need a level playing field, so to speak.
Otherwise, you end up with a free-for-all, and that's not good for anyone.
Exactly. And the U.S. wants to ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically on a global scale.
Not just within their own borders.
Not just within their own borders. They're trying to set the tone for the whole world.
Which is a tall order, to say the least.
It is a tall order, but they seem determined to try.
Well, it's certainly an ambitious agenda.
Ambitious is an understatement.
And it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely, and that's what we're going to be unpacking in this deep dive.
I'm ready. Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's do it. Let's get into the details.
And this brings us back to that idea of responsible AI use for national security. Like, it's not just a buzzword in this memo. They actually get into the nuts and bolts of how to make it happen.
Okay, I'm all about the specifics, so give me the rundown. How do they plan to ensure this ethical and legal use of AI?
Well, they're starting with a pretty significant structural change. Every agency that's using AI for national security purposes is going to need a chief AI officer.
So like a dedicated AI guru for each agency.
Exactly. Someone who's not just overseeing the use of AI, but also actively promoting AI innovation.
Okay.
While also managing the risks. It's a big job.
It sounds like it. So they're basically embedding AI expertise at the highest levels of each agency.
That's the idea, and they're not stopping there. They're also setting up these AI governance boards.
AI governance boards.
Yeah, they'll be made up of senior leaders from within each agency.
So it's like a checks and balances system to make sure AI is being used responsibly.
Exactly. They'll be digging into the complexities of AI use, making sure it aligns with the agency's mission and values.
I'm starting to see how much thought they're putting into this. It's not just about the tech itself.
No, it's about the whole culture surrounding AI, how it's integrated, how it's governed.
It's about building a whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
Okay, so they've got the chief AI officer,
Yeah.
They've got the governance boards. What else is in their toolkit for responsible AI use?
Well, they've outlined some very specific risk management practices for what they call high-impact AI.
High-impact AI, what does that even mean?
Think of AI systems where the output could have, a major impact on national security or international norms,
Okay.
human rights, other democratic values, basically any use of AI where the stakes are particularly high.
So we're talking about AI that could be used for things like military decisions or surveillance operations?
Potentially, yes. Anything where the consequences of a mistake could be really significant.
Stuff that could have a ripple effect across the globe.
Exactly.
Okay, so for these high-impact AI systems, what kind of risk management practices are they putting in place?
Well, first and foremost, agencies need to do a thorough assessment of both the potential benefits and risks of using these systems.
So weighing the pros and cons, making sure the benefits outweigh the risks.
Exactly, and they have to make sure the data they're using to train these AI systems is high quality and unbiased.
Because garbage in, garbage out, right?
Precisely. You can't expect an AI to make good decisions if it's being fed bad data.
Makes sense. So data quality is a big focus.
Huge focus. And they're also required to have robust testing and evaluation procedures.
What kind of testing are we talking about?
Well, they're specifically looking for things like algorithmic bias.
Right. Making sure the AI isn't perpetuating existing societal biases.
Exactly. They're also looking for security vulnerabilities, any weaknesses that could be exploited by hackers or malicious actors.
So making sure these AI systems are secure, that they can't be easily compromised.
Exactly. And of course, they're also looking out for those unintended consequences we talked about earlier.
Right, because AI can be unpredictable. It can do things that we don't expect.
And those unexpected outcomes could have serious consequences, especially when we're talking about national security.
So it's about trying to anticipate those unforeseen issues and mitigate them before they can cause any real harm.
Precisely, a proactive approach, rather than just waiting for something to go wrong and then trying to clean up the mess.
Okay, so we've talked about risk assessment, data quality, testing. What else is on their checklist for responsible AI use?
Well, since we are talking about national security here, they also have to make sure that any use of AI is in line with legal and ethical standards.
So no shady algorithms making decisions that violate human rights.
Exactly. Everything needs to be above board, transparent, and accountable.
It's starting to sound really complex, like we're talking about a whole new way of approaching national security.
It is complex, there's no doubt about it. AI is a game changer, and it's forcing us to rethink a lot of our assumptions.
It's like we're building a whole new infrastructure, not just for the tech itself, but for the people, the policies, the ethical considerations. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but the potential benefits of AI are simply too great to ignore.
So it's a balancing act, trying to harness the power of this new tech while also mitigating the risks and making sure it's used for good.
And that balancing act is playing out on the international stage as well. Remember, we talked about the U.S. wanting to shape global AI governance?
Yep, setting those international standards for responsible AI use, like an international code of conduct for AI.
That's the goal, and they want to develop these internationally shared definitions and norms for AI.
Okay.
And they want those norms to be as consistent as possible with the U.S.'s own domestic AI framework.
So, leading by example.
Exactly, showing the world what responsible AI use looks like.
And they're not trying to do that all alone, are they?
No, the memo stresses the importance of working with allies and partners, leveraging existing international institutions like the UN and the G7.
So it's a multilateral approach, building consensus, finding common ground.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that AI is a global issue and it requires a global response.
So no AI arms race then.
Well, the memo doesn't explicitly say that, but they are advocating for transparency, cooperation, and a focus on using AI to prevent conflict, not escalate it.
Okay, that's reassuring. It sounds like they're trying to steer the world towards a more peaceful and cooperative future with AI.
That's the hope, but it remains to be seen how successful they'll be.
It's definitely a work in progress, but at least they're having the conversation. They're recognizing the importance of setting those ethical and legal boundaries.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're actually taking concrete steps to implement these ideas.
Right. It's not just empty rhetoric.
No, they're putting resources behind this. They're creating new institutions. They're developing new frameworks.
They're really trying to make this happen.
They are. And I think that's what makes this memo so significant. It's not just a vision statement. It's a blueprint for action.
It's a roadmap for the future of AI. Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, the high-level goals, the ethical and legal frameworks. Now let's zoom in on the implementation. How are they actually going to put all of this into practice?
Well, remember all those specific roles we talked about assigned to different agencies?
Yeah, the chief AI officer, the governance boards, all that.
Right. Well, those are just the starting point. They're not working in silos. The memo calls for a very high level of coordination and collaboration across the entire government.
So breaking down those bureaucratic walls and making sure everyone is on the same page when it comes to AI.
Exactly. They're creating a unified approach to AI, recognizing that it touches on virtually every aspect of national security.
It's a whole-of-government approach that really emphasizing that.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They've set up this special task force.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. What was it called again?
The AI National Security Coordination Group, or Coordination Group for short.
Catchy?
It is, and it's made up of senior AI officials from all the key agencies involved in national security.
So it's like a brain trust for AI, bringing together the top experts from across the government.
That's a good way to put it. And their main focus is to make sure all the different AI systems can talk to each other and share data.
Data sharing, that's crucial in the intelligence world.
Absolutely. And they call it interoperability, making sure everyone is literally speaking the same language when it comes to AI.
Okay, so interoperability is a big priority.
Huge priority, because without it, you've got all these different AI systems working in isolation, and that's not very effective.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle with pieces from different sets.
Exactly. The pieces just don't fit together. So this coordination group is tasked with making sure all those pieces can work together seamlessly.
I like that analogy. It makes a lot of sense. So they're tackling the technical side of things. What about the human element?
Well, they recognize that you can have the most advanced AI systems in the world, but if the people using them don't know what they're doing, it's all for nothing.
Right. It all comes down to the people in the end.
Exactly. So they're also tasked with developing standardized training and awareness programs.
So everyone working with AI in the government has a baseline understanding of the technology.
Exactly. They need to understand the risks, the ethical implications, and the best practices for responsible use.
Like an AI curriculum for the entire national security workforce.
You got it. And it's not a one-time thing either. They need to constantly update those training programs.
Right, because AI is constantly evolving. What's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow.
Exactly. So they need to be constantly assessing new risks, adapting to the latest technological advancements.
It's a never-ending process of learning and adapting.
It is, and they acknowledge that in the memo, they're very upfront about the need for continuous learning and improvement.
It's good to know they're not being complacent. They're recognizing that this is a long game.
They are, and they're also putting a lot of emphasis on attracting and retaining top AI talent.
Yeah, the memo talks a lot about talent recruitment. It's like they're saying, look, we need the best and brightest minds working on this, no matter where they're from.
Exactly. They recognize that talent is the key to success in the AI era.
So what are they doing to make the U.S. the destination for AI talent?
Well, they're talking about streamlining visa processes for foreign experts, creating new scholarship programs, and even partnering with universities to develop specialized AI training programs.
So they're building an AI talent pipeline from education all the way through to government and industry positions.
Exactly. And it's not just about coding skills either. They're also looking for people with expertise in AI ethics, governance, and risk management.
It's a holistic approach, recognizing that AI is more than just a technical challenge, it's also a societal one.
Precisely. And they're trying to build a workforce that reflects that.
It's really impressive, the level of thought and planning that's gone into this memo.
It is. They're not just throwing money at the problem. They're taking a very strategic and comprehensive approach.
It's like they're building a whole new infrastructure for the AI age, not just for the government, but for society as a whole.
You've hit the nail on the head. They're laying the foundation for a future where AI is used safely, ethically, and for the benefit of all.
It's a bold vision, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
I agree. It's an exciting time to be working in this field, and it's clear that the U.S. is committed to leading the way.
And it's not just about the U.S., right? They're also trying to shape the global landscape of AI, working with allies and partners to establish those international norms and standards we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's a multi-pronged approach. They're working on the domestic front. They're working on the international front. They're trying to cover all the bases.
It's a massive undertaking, but they seem to be up for the challenge.
They are. And I think that's what's so encouraging about this memo. It shows that they're taking this issue seriously, and they're not shying away from the hard questions.
They're embracing the complexity, recognizing that there are no easy answers.
Exactly. And they're committed to finding solutions that work for everyone, not just for a select few.
It's a refreshing approach, and it gives me hope for the future of AI.
Me too. I think we're on the cusp of a truly transformative era, and it's up to us to make sure that AI is used for good.
Well said. I couldn't agree more, and I think this memo is a great first step in that direction.
It is. It's a sign that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, so we've talked about the risks, the safeguards, the ethical considerations, but let's not forget about the other side of the coin, the potential benefits of AI for national security.
Right, because there's a lot of good that AI can do. It's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. So let's dive into that. What are some of the ways that AI can actually enhance national security?
Well, one of the most promising areas is intelligence analysis. Imagine AI systems that can sift through mountains of data from various sources.
Like satellites, social media, all that stuff.
Exactly. And they can identify patterns and potential threats much faster and more efficiently than any human analyst ever could.
So we're talking about an AI-powered early warning system for national security threats.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about speed, it's about accuracy, too.
Right, because AI can be trained to recognize patterns that humans might miss.
Exactly. And it can do it on a scale that would be impossible for humans to replicate.
It sounds like AI could be a game changer for intelligence agencies.
It certainly has the potential to be. And it's not just about intelligence gathering. AI could also play a key role in cyber defense.
Okay, this I've got to hear more about. How can AI be used for cyber defense?
Well, we all know cyber attacks are becoming more sophisticated and more frequent, right?
It's like a constant barrage. It's hard to keep up.
Exactly. And it's incredibly difficult for human analysts to keep up with the sheer volume and complexity of these threats.
It's like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a bucket.
Exactly. But AI systems can be trained to detect and respond to cyber attacks in real time.
In real time, that's amazing.
It is, and it could potentially prevent major damage or data breaches.
So it's like having an AI-powered cybersecurity guard on duty 24/7, constantly scanning for threats and taking action before they can cause any real harm.
That's a great analogy, and it's not just about defense either. AI could also be used to develop more sophisticated offensive cyber capabilities.
Okay, now we're getting into some ethically tricky territory, right? Using AI to launch cyber attacks.
It is a sensitive area, and the memo does acknowledge the need for careful consideration and oversight when it comes to developing these kinds of capabilities.
Right, because there's a fine line between using AI for defense and using it for offense.
There is, and it's a line that we need to be very careful not to cross.
So it's a double-edged sword. AI has the potential to make us both safer and more vulnerable at the same time.
That's exactly right, and it highlights the need for a nuanced and thoughtful approach to AI development and use. We can't just focus on the technological capabilities, we also need to think about the ethical implications.
Right, it's not just about what we can do with AI, it's about what we should do with it.
And that brings us back to the importance of strong governance frameworks, clear ethical guidelines, and a commitment to transparency and accountability.
Because at the end of the day, AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil.
And it's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
And that decision is something we need to make collectively as a society, right?
Absolutely. It's not just up to governments or tech companies. We all have a stake in shaping the future of AI.
This is a conversation that needs to happen everywhere, from the halls of Congress to our own living rooms.
I couldn't agree more. We all need to be informed, engaged, and ready to grapple with the complexities of AI.
It really feels like this memo is like a wake-up call.
Yeah, wake-up call. How so?
It's like they're saying, hey, AI is not going anywhere, so we better figure out how to live with it, how to use it responsibly, how to make it work for us.
It is a pretty stark acknowledgement that the AI era is here and it's not going away anytime soon.
Exactly, and they're not pretending to have all the answers, which is actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah. It is. It's a humble approach, recognizing the sheer complexity of AI and the challenges we're facing.
They're acknowledging that the landscape is constantly changing, so our approach to AI governance has to be flexible, adaptable. It can't be static.
Yeah, it's got to be dynamic. It's got to be able to keep up with the pace of innovation.
Exactly. It's like they're building in these feedback loops, allowing for constant assessment, readjustment. It's an iterative process.
They're not afraid to admit that they might need to course correct along the way.
Exactly, because what might seem like a cutting-edge safeguard today could be completely outdated tomorrow.
Things are moving so fast in the AI world, it's hard to predict what the future holds.
Exactly, and that's why they're putting so much emphasis on research and development, not just for AI itself, but for AI safety and security as well.
Right, they're investing in the tools, the techniques, the expertise that will allow us to not just keep pace with the AI development, but hopefully stay ahead of the curve.
Anticipating risks before they even emerge, that's the goal, right?
That's the ideal scenario. But it's a tall order, to say the least.
It is, but it's not just about the technology, is it? It's also about having the right mindset.
Okay, I like that. The right mindset. What do you mean by that?
I mean, a mindset that embraces the transformative potential of AI while also being realistic about the risks. A mindset that balances optimism with caution.
So not getting carried away by the hype, but also not being paralyzed by fear.
Exactly. It's about walking that tightrope, acknowledging the possibilities, while also being mindful of the potential pitfalls. It's a tricky balance.
It is, and I think that's reflected in this memo. It's both ambitious and cautious, forward-looking, but also grounded in a deep understanding of the complexities of AI.
This whole conversation has really got me thinking about the bigger picture. We've been focusing on AI in the context of government and national security.
Right.
But what about the impact of AI on society as a whole? I mean, this isn't just a government issue. This is something that's going to affect all of us, right?
Absolutely. This is a societal issue, a human issue, and I think we're only just beginning to grasp the full implications of what it means to live in an AI-driven world.
It's kind of exciting, kind of terrifying all at the same time.
It is. There's so much potential for good, but also so much potential for harm. It's a very powerful technology.
It really feels like we're at a crossroads. And the choices we make today are going to determine what kind of future we create with AI.
And those choices aren't just being made by governments and tech companies. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
So what can we do? What can we do as individuals? It feels like this big, overwhelming thing that's happening, and we're just along for the ride.
I know what you mean. It can feel that way, but we're not powerless. There are things we can do. First and foremost, we need to educate ourselves about AI.
Right, knowledge is power.
Exactly. The more we understand about AI, its capabilities, its limitations, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this new world, to make informed decisions about how we want to use it, how we want to live with it.
So it's about taking ownership, not just passively accepting whatever comes our way.
Exactly. And we need to be having these conversations not just in academic circles or in government, but in our everyday lives, with our friends, our families, our communities.
Talking about the ethics of AI, the implications for society, what kind of future we want to create, those are conversations that need to be happening everywhere.
And we need to hold those in power accountable, demand transparency from the people who are developing and deploying AI systems, make sure they're considering the broader societal impact, not just the bottom line.
It's about making our voices heard, making sure that AI is used in a way that benefits all of us, not just a select few.
And at the end of the day, it's about remembering that AI is a tool, a very powerful tool, but still just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide.
Well said. It really is up to us. We have a responsibility to shape this technology, to guide it in a direction that benefits humanity.
We're at a pivotal moment in history, and the choices we make now will have a lasting impact.
Okay, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the potential benefits of AI to the risks, the ethical considerations, the global implications. It's a lot to process. And we've only just scratched the surface.
It is a vast and complex topic, but I think we've laid out some of the key questions that we need to be asking ourselves as we move forward into this new era.
Exactly. And I hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, some insights into the challenges and opportunities that AI presents, and most importantly, a sense of empowerment, because this isn't something that's happening to us. It's something that we're all shaping together.
We have agency, we have a voice, and we need to use it.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and national security. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.